Ever get that feeling like, like a movie just sucks you right in?
Oh, yeah.
It's like one minute you're on your couch and the next you're like in some crazy futuristic city or like a cozy little village in England.
You're right there with them.
Totally. And it's not magic, even though it kind of feels like it. It's the power of design in film. And that's what we're diving into today.
Awesome.
A deep dive into this whole world of theater and film design. And we're starting with some excerpts from this textbook I found on like the fundamentals of theater design.
Okay.
Then we're going to see how those ideas kind of, evolve and play out on the big screen.
I love it. Sounds fascinating.
So we often talk about a movie's story or the acting, right? But the design is like just as important, I think, to like our experience as viewers.
Yeah, I think so too. It really sets the whole mood.
Like literally every visual detail from set to the costumes, the lighting, it's all carefully chosen
Right.
to create a specific atmosphere and like boost the storytelling.
Yep.
It's like the design is kind of whispering secrets about the characters and the world they're in.
I like it, yeah.
I'm thinking of like, how just the fabric choices in a period piece
Mhm.
can instantly tell you so much about a character.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like rough wool for a peasant, luxurious velvet for a king. Just like that,
It's true. And those visual cues, they go way beyond with like establishing the setting.
Oh, for sure.
Take costume design, for example. It could be so dynamic. Like the shape of a character's clothing can subtly change as the film goes on
Interesting.
to reflect their growth or even their descent, into darkness. Think about Darth Vader, that imposing black suit.
Yeah, yeah.
It really reinforces his transformation from fallen Jedi to that menacing Sith Lord.
Wow, that's a really great point. I never really thought about how costume design could do that, like underscore character development in that way.
Yeah, it's powerful.
So if each element of design is like a storytelling tool,
Right.
then where do designers even begin? Like they must be analyzing the script, like detectives, right?
Oh, absolutely. Our source material talks about how theatrical designers start by like dissecting the script
Okay.
and asking themselves these fundamental questions. Like, where does the story take place? What's the historical period? What kind of mood or atmosphere does the play even evoke?
Right, right.
They even think about practical stuff, like the necessary props and how the actors are going to move through the space.
It's like building a house. You wouldn't start hammering away without a blueprint first.
Exactly. And just like an architect considers the purpose of a building, right? A designer needs to understand the heart of the story they're trying to tell visually.
Totally. But the design doesn't always have to be a literal interpretation of the setting, right?
Right.
Our source talks about how like a realistic set isn't always the best choice.
Yeah, because imagine a play that's exploring like themes of isolation or a mental breakdown.
Oh, right.
A hyper-realistic set might not capture those internal states as well as, say, like a distorted and fragmented set design.
I see what you mean.
Think about productions of Samuel Beckett's plays, often stark and minimalistic, forcing the audience to focus on the character's internal struggles.
Oh, that makes sense. So even in theater, there's room for like abstraction and visual metaphors.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so once they've analyzed the script and considered all these angles, then they start developing their overarching design concept, right?
Yes. The design concept is like the glue that holds it all together. It's that unifying visual idea that makes sure all the elements, the costume set, lighting, even sound work in harmony
Right.
to support the play's themes and atmosphere.
I bet that involves a lot of back and forth between the director and the designer.
For sure. It's super collaborative. The director might come in with a specific vision, but the designer brings their own expertise and creativity to the table.
Right.
They do research sketch ideas, build models. It's like giving birth to a whole visual world from scratch.
Wow, that's intense. Speaking of distinct visual worlds, our source mentions the Grand Budapest Hotel as having this like really memorable design concept.
Oh, yeah?
Can you break that down for us?
The Grand Budapest Hotel is a great example of how design can create a unique and unforgettable cinematic experience.
For sure.
Director Wes Anderson is known for his super stylized visual aesthetic,
Right.
often using symmetrical compositions, vibrant color palettes, and a sense of heightened reality.
So it's not just about creating a believable hotel.
No.
It's about building a world that reflects the whimsical and quirky tone of the film.
Exactly. And in the Grand Budapest Hotel, the design choices transport us to this fictional European country between the wars.
Okay.
A place where elegance and absurdity coexist.
I love that. Okay, so we've been diving into the foundational elements of theater design, from costumes and sets to that cohesive concept. But how does all this translate to the world of film?
Well, in many ways, film design builds on the principles we've been talking about.
Okay.
But it also introduces new complexities. The scale is often larger, and the technology available to designers is far more advanced.
I bet the scope of a film production is just massive compared to a stage play. So who's in charge of overseeing that whole visual landscape of a film?
That would be the production designer.
Okay.
Think of them as like the captain of the visual ship,
Right.
making sure all the departments, costumes, makeup, set, construction, special effects, are all working together to
Wow.
create a cohesive visual language for the film.
So they're kind of like the conductor of an orchestra,
Yeah,
but instead of musical instruments, they're harmonizing all these different visual elements.
that's a great analogy. And just like a conductor needs to understand each instrument's strengths,
Mm-hmm.
the production designer needs to have a deep understanding of each department's craft and how they can contribute to the overall vision.
Right.
Plus, in the world of film, they're working with this vast toolkit that includes modern technology like 3D modeling rendering and CGI.
It's mind-blowing how technology has expanded the possibilities of what designers can create now. It's not just about building physical sets anymore. It's about crafting entire worlds,
I know, it's amazing.
both real and imagined.
Exactly.
So when it comes to those sets, filmmakers have two main approaches, right?
Yeah.
Studio shoots and location shoots.
Right.
And each comes with its own set of advantages and challenges.
For sure.
I get why studios would be convenient, controlled environments, no weather surprises.
Right.
But wouldn't you lose some of that authenticity you'd get from shooting on location?
You're absolutely right. Studio sets, while highly controllable and often more budget-friendly,
Yeah,
can sometimes feel artificial, lacking the grit and texture of a real place.
totally. Think of a film like Blade Runner 2049, where those vast dystopian cityscapes
Oh, yeah.
play such a crucial role in setting the tone. It's hard to imagine achieving that level of immersive realism solely on a soundstage.
You're right. It really adds to the whole feel.
Right. So the location itself almost becomes like a character,
It does.
adding to the film's atmosphere and emotional impact. But what about when filmmakers do choose to build sets? What kind of things do they think about then?
Well, even in a studio environment, designers are still super attentive to detail.
Okay.
They think about things like texture, the roughness of brick walls, the sheen of polished floors, and scale is super important too.
Huh.
Sometimes they'll intentionally build sets slightly smaller or larger than life
Really?
to create a particular feeling or emphasize the power dynamics between characters.
So it's not just about recreating reality.
Nope.
It's about shaping it to serve the story.
Exactly.
It's making me realize how much we as viewers just take those visual choices for granted. We just accept the world presented to us without really considering the thought and intention behind it all.
That's so true.
That's why I love exploring these behind-the-scenes elements. It helps us understand the power of design to shape our emotional responses and influence how we interpret a story.
I agree.
This is what makes these deep dives so rewarding.
It is.
We're peeling back the layers of a film and discovering this whole hidden language that's been operating on a subconscious level.
That's a great way to put it.
And we've only just begun. There's so much more to explore, from the subtle power of color palettes to the way filmmakers manipulate space to create specific effects.
Oh,
I
definitely.
can't wait to hear more.
Me neither.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about studio versus location shoots.
Right.
What about those times when filmmakers actually modify a real-world location to suit their needs? Our source mentioned that happening sometimes.
It happens all the time. They might dress up a modern building to make it look old,
Okay.
or build entire facades to create the illusion of a different place.
Huh.
Remember that Parisian cafe from Amy?
Yeah.
That was a set built on location, carefully made to fit the director's vision of Montmartre.
It's so cool how they can blend reality and artifice to
Yeah.
create these convincing worlds on screen. So we've talked sets and locations, but what about the characters in those spaces? How does costume design work in film?
It's a really nuanced art form. It's not just about historical accuracy.
Right.
It's about using clothing to tell a story.
Okay.
Because the camera can capture so much detail, costume designers can use subtle things
Like what?
like texture pattern, even the way a garment drapes,
Oh, wow.
to give you tons of information about a character.
Interesting.
Think of the hobbits in Lord of the Rings. Those catted robes
Yeah.
instantly tell us about their simple life in the Shire.
And I'm always fascinated by how color is used in film.
Me too.
It's like there's this unspoken language we respond to emotionally.
You're so right. Color palettes are super strategic in film. Contrasting colors might be used to show conflict between characters,
Okay.
while complementary colors could suggest harmony.
Huh.
Think of The Matrix, that iconic red and blue.
Oh, yeah.
Those colors aren't random, they symbolize the choice between the real world and the Matrix.
Wow, I never thought about it that way, but it makes so much
All
sense.
right,
It makes me want to rewatch some of my favorite movies and pay closer attention.
you should.
Are there any other examples where color plays a big role?
Tons. One that comes to mind is Mood Indigo, directed by Michael Gondry.
Okay.
It's visually amazing and uses a shifting color palette to mirror the emotional arc of the story.
Interesting.
When the characters fall in love, the world is full of vibrant, joyful colors. But as
Oh.
things get tragic, those colors become muted and sad.
So the color palette is like a character itself.
It really is.
Evolving along with the story, it's fascinating how these subtle choices can impact us so much. Speaking of influencing our experience, let's talk sound design.
Okay,
It's often overlooked, but it's so crucial to making a world believable on screen.
you're right. Sound design is like the invisible hand that guides our emotions. It can amp up the tension during a suspenseful scene or create a sense of wonder.
Yeah,
Think about the sound of rain on a window pane in a film noir.
okay.
It's not just background noise, it adds to that feeling of melancholy.
And sometimes the absence of sound is just as powerful.
Oh, totally.
Like in a horror movie when the music cuts out and it's just silence.
The best.
That can be terrifying.
Silence can be used to build anticipation, create unease, or highlight a key moment.
So filmmakers are like manipulating sound to shape our feelings.
They are. They play with volume, pitch, even the direction of sound to create effects.
It's like they're sculpting the soundscape
Yes.
to match the visuals and enhance the story. I'm realizing every element of film design, even the stuff we don't notice, is working together
It all comes
because
together.
it creates this unified experience. It's like a symphony for the eyes and ears.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It highlights how collaborative filmmaking is.
Yeah.
The director, cinematographer, production designer, costume designer, sound designer, editor,
Wow, that's a lot of people.
they all contribute to the film, each playing a crucial role in the final product.
I'm starting to understand why film buffs get so passionate about specific directors or cinematographers.
I get it.
It's not just the story, it's the unique style and vision they bring.
Exactly.
Speaking of vision, let's talk about editing. It seems technical, but I bet it plays a huge role in shaping the story, too.
Absolutely. Editing is where all the pieces come together. It's where the raw footage becomes a cohesive narrative.
Mm.
A skilled editor can control the pace of a film, build suspense, create emotional impact, even manipulate time and space.
So it's not just about cutting out the bad takes.
Nope.
It's about making creative choices that influence how we experience the story.
Exactly. A good editor is like a master storyteller, weaving shots and sequences together to create a mood and guide our attention.
I see.
Think about the shower scene in Psycho.
Oh,
The
yeah.
editing with those quick cuts and jarring angles,
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes it so scary. It's not just the images, it's how they're presented.
It's amazing how editing can make static images into this dynamic, emotional thing.
It is.
It makes me think about all those times in films when I've felt my heart pounding.
Yeah,
Those reactions are often thanks to the editor.
it's true. That's the power of film. It blends technical skill with creative vision
Mm-hmm.
to play with our perceptions and make us feel things.
This has been such an eye-opening look at film design.
I agree.
We've gone from sets and locations to costumes and colors,
Yeah.
even sound design and editing. I feel like I have a new appreciation for the artistry and collaboration that goes into making movies.
And we've only scratched the surface.
I know, right?
There's so much more to discover, from the history of visual storytelling to the latest technology,
It's mind-blowing.
pushing the boundaries of what's possible on screen.
I'm already feeling inspired to learn more.
Good.
And I'm definitely going to watch films with a more critical eye now.
Me too.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious, are there any books or resources you recommend for people who want to learn more about film design?
Definitely. One I always recommend is Production Design and Art Direction by Peter Edigi.
Okay.
It's a great guide to film design, covering everything from sets and costumes to the role of the production designer.
I'm going to check that out.
You should.
Well, we've covered a lot, but there's one more piece of the puzzle. How does knowing about design choices actually make us enjoy movies more?
Good question.
We'll answer that and more when we come back for the final part of our deep dive. All right, we are back and ready for the final part of our deep dive into theater and film design.
I can't believe it's already the end.
I know, me too. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It really does.
But yeah, so much to talk about. We've been exploring, everything from stage design basics to that like intricate world of visual storytelling in film.
It's been a journey.
Totally. And like I feel like I've gotten this backstage pass
Yeah.
to the whole magic of movie making. It's mind-blowing how much thought goes into like every detail we see up there on the screen.
It really is. And I remember at the beginning we were talking about how design can like transport us to other worlds?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've seen how that happens now.
We have.
It's not just about building crazy sets. It's about using all the tools,
Right.
color, light, texture, space, even sound and editing to
Wow.
create like a full-on sensory experience.
It's like we've learned the secret language of film.
You got
I used to just watch passively, but now I catch myself noticing things like how a character's framed in a shot or the colors they use.
Yeah, me too.
It's awesome.
That's what makes this whole thing so cool. It opens up a whole new level
Right.
of appreciation. You start to see the intention behind everything.
Like nothing's an accident.
Exactly. Nothing is accidental in a well-designed film.
That's so cool. Okay, so as we wrap up, let's bring it back to the people listening. Why should they care about all of this? How does knowing about design choices actually make us enjoy movies more?
I think it's because when we get the language of film design,
Okay.
we become more active participants
Oh, I see.
in the storytelling. We're not just sitting there taking it all in.
We're engaged.
Yeah, we're engaging with it on a deeper level.
It's like the difference between like just glancing at a painting versus really seeing it.
Yes,
You can appreciate the colors and shapes, but once you understand the artist's technique,
right. The whole thing just takes on a new meaning.
that's a great way to put it. And that's what happens when we know about design choices in film, right? We pick up on those subtle things
Yeah.
that we might have missed before, and we start to appreciate like the skill it took to create those moments.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about The Matrix again with that red and blue color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I get the symbolism,
Yeah,
the scene is so much more powerful for me. It's not just cool to look at. It's like a visual representation of the whole conflict in the movie.
totally. And that's just one tiny example.
Crazy.
Think about lighting, how it can create a mood.
Oh, yeah.
Or how using space can show the power dynamic between characters.
That's true.
When you see these techniques, you start to see them everywhere.
It's like learning to read a new language.
It is.
But instead of words, you're like deciphering light and shadow and composition.
Exactly. And just like any language, it opens up a world of understanding. You're not just watching a movie anymore.
Right.
You're having a conversation with it.
I love that. So what's the takeaway? What should our listeners do with this new knowledge?
Approach their next movie night with fresh eyes. Pay attention to the little things.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to pause, rewind if something catches your eye.
Good tip.
Ask yourself why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, talk about it. Share what you notice with friends and family.
Oh, for sure.
It makes it so much more fun when you have someone to chat with.
It's like joining a secret society of film nerds.
It is.
Who can now like crack the code of the visual.
I like it.
Who knows, maybe this deep dive will get people to explore design even more.
I hope so.
And maybe pick up a camera or watch films by directors who are known for their visuals.
Right.
The possibilities are endless. Once you see the power of design, the world looks totally different.
So true.
So to wrap up our deep dive,
Yes.
one final thought film is this amazing collaborative thing.
It is.
And every piece matters.
Everything.
From the script to the acting to the design, it all comes together.
For the experience.
So next time you're watching a movie, take a minute to appreciate it all.
Yes.
Not just what's happening on screen.
The behind it too.
Exactly. Let the magic of design take you away.
To a whole other place.
Until next time, happy viewing, everybody. 22 Tive.